Do you know what's truly terrifying about getting older? It's not the gray hair. It's not the wrinkles etched on your face. It's waking up one morning, opening your eyes, and realizing that the simplest thing, just sitting up in bed, suddenly feels like a battle. That's exactly what happened to me. It was a morning like any other. The alarm rang. Sunlight streamed through the window. I did what I had done for decades, pressed my hands down to sit up. But this time, my legs felt foreign. Heavy, weak, almost betraying me. I tried to stand. My body trembled, my knees wobbled. And at the very moment I had to grip the edge of the bed just to stay upright, a chilling question echoed in my mind. Have I lost control of my own life? In that instant, all the simple joys vanished. Breakfast didn't matter. A walk in the park didn't matter. Even the little garden outside my porch faded from thought. All that remained was fear. Fear that I had crossed an invisible line, where independence, dignity, and pride were slipping away piece by piece. And let me be honest with you, this is the greatest fear of aging. Not how you look, but the moment you can't even do the most basic things for yourself. The moment you're forced to rely on others. Medicine has a name for it. Sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss. It sounds harmless, but in reality it's a silent thief. No alarms, no obvious warnings. Just quietly eating away at your muscles, day after day, until one morning you wake up and realize you've become a prisoner in your own home. At first, it's just little signs. Climbing stairs feels harder. Standing up from a chair leaves you unsteady. But over time, those small cracks widen into a canyon. And then, it doesn't just steal muscle. It steals your freedom, your independence, and your trust in your own body. That morning, as my heart pounded in my chest, I had to face a brutal truth. Aging isn't just about looking older. It's about losing control. And that was the moment fear hit me harder than ever before. So what exactly pushed me, and millions of others, into this state? It's not simply age itself, but 3 hidden saboteurs silently breaking down our bodies every single day. Let me tell you about the first one. If you want to uncover these causes and the weapon to fight back, hit subscribe right now, tap like to support, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Trust me, the next part could change the way you see aging forever, and you won't want to miss it. After that fateful morning, when I stood up and my legs trembled as if they were about to snap, I became haunted by one question. What on earth is happening inside my body? I couldn't just sit still. My wife could see the change in me. One evening, after dinner, as I sat there clutching my stomach in discomfort, she tilted her head and gently asked, "You've been sighing after every meal lately. What's going on?" I shook my head, but deep down I knew the truth. Every meal was becoming a silent battle. Chicken, fish, steak. The foods that once gave me strength now left only heaviness behind. I started digging for answers, and what I discovered sent a chill down my spine. The first saboteur, a slowing digestive system. I came across a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2013. People over 60 absorb amino acids up to 30% less efficiently than younger adults. It sounds clinical, but imagine this. You're hauling in truckloads of bricks to build a house, but no one's there to break them down for use. The bricks pile up, while the house remains unfinished. My wife gave a sad smile when I explained, "So you mean you're eating enough, but your body is still starving?" Exactly. My stomach was no longer producing enough acid to break down protein. My pancreas had grown lazy, producing fewer enzymes, so I couldn't properly digest fats or protein. The result? I was eating, yet undernourished, left with bloating, inflammation, and exhaustion. But that was only one of 3 saboteurs. The second, hormones turning against me. There was a time when work piled up and I stayed up late night after night. My wife often warned, "You need to sleep more. You're hurting yourself." I brushed it off, thinking another cup of coffee would fix it. But then my body spoke loud and clear. Muscle started vanishing, especially in my legs and glutes, while my belly kept growing. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger. Thin, yet with a protruding belly and limp arms and legs. They call it skinny fat. It sounds almost comical, but when you see that reflection staring back at you, there's nothing funny about it. I later found in Endocrine Reviews, 2017, cortisol, the stress hormone, when elevated for too long, accelerates muscle breakdown while reducing bone density. Exactly what I was experiencing. Cortisol builds nothing. It only destroys. And insulin, which once shuttled amino acids into muscle, was now resisted by my body. The outcome? Protein wasn't building muscle anymore. It was turning into belly fat. One evening, my wife placed her hand on my stomach and teased gently. "You're thinner, but your belly's getting bigger. Strange, isn't it?" I forced a laugh, but inside, it stung. It was the sign my body was betraying me. And then I realized there was a third saboteur, more silent, more dangerous. The third, an exhausted liver. I used to think the liver only mattered when it came to alcohol. I didn't drink much, so I assumed mine was fine. But I was wrong. The liver isn't just a filter for booze. It's the metabolic control center. Processing amino acids, producing enzymes, regulating blood sugar, deciding whether or not my body could actually build muscle. Yet for years, I had overworked it. Fast food, processed meals, sugary drinks loaded with fructose. My liver had become like a foreman on a construction site, buried under endless tasks until he finally collapsed. And when the foreman goes down, the whole site descends into chaos. There was a period when I slept a full 8 hours, but woke up utterly drained. At a checkup, the doctor studied my results and said, "Your liver is overworked. It's not functioning the way it used to." It hit me like a slap in the face. Suddenly, it all made sense. Why my body never recovered, no matter how hard I tried. The protein I ate never got fully utilized. It was like having bricks and workers, but no manager. The building never got built. These were the three saboteurs I uncovered. A weakening digestive system, rebellious hormones, and an exhausted liver. They don't strike with sudden pain, but day by day, they rob you of strength, independence, and turn you into a frail version of yourself. My wife looked at me, eyes filled with concern. "You can't let this go on forever. There has to be a way." She was right. I refused to accept that this was simply the fate of aging, and just when I thought I had run out of options, I stumbled on something most people overlook, but something that can fight all three saboteurs at once. That weapon, I'll reveal in just a moment, but before I do, I want you to ask yourself, if there were a way to reclaim your strength, your freedom, and your dignity, would you take it? At the lowest point of my struggle, I stumbled upon a secret weapon. Something so simple, so ancient, it seemed woven into the history of mankind itself. And it carried a name: bone broth. Doesn't sound impressive, right? Here in America, bone broth isn't exotic. I had always thought of it as a humble food, something you sip when you're sick or when you want to make soup. Never in my life did I imagine it could hold the key to regaining my strength. The person who led me to this discovery wasn't a doctor, not a trainer, but my wife. One evening, as I sat slouched in the chair, clutching my stomach after yet another heavy meal, she quietly set a warm mug in front of me. The liquid shimmered golden brown, carrying the faint aroma of vegetables and slow-simmered bones. She said softly, "Try this. I read somewhere it might help you feel better." I took a sip with no expectation at all. But to my surprise, it was warm, gentle, sliding down my throat and spreading across my belly like a calming wave. Unlike the heaviness I felt after eating, this drink made me feel safe. That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. No tossing, no stomach churning, no tight discomfort. I woke up clear-headed with a strangely peaceful stomach. My wife smiled, a little triumphant. "See? I told you. From now on, you should drink it every day." I chuckled, but deep inside, curiosity burned. How could something so simple, so traditional, make such a difference? I started digging, and what I found blew me away. Bone broth, I realized, was like the cement of life. I jokingly call it the mortar of the body. Why? Because when bones, skin, and tendons simmer for hours, they release nutrients in tiny absorbable pieces. Peptides, amino acids, collagen that slip easily into the bloodstream, even when your digestion isn't at full strength anymore. If the body is a house, then protein from steak or chicken breast is like big bricks. You need strong workers to break those bricks down before you can build with them. But bone broth, it's already the mortar, ready to pour straight into the cracks, sealing weak spots, reinforcing fragile walls. I noticed something remarkable. On days when my stomach felt like it had given up, bone broth still worked quietly in the background, giving me strength without asking much from my gut or pancreas. It was like a loyal friend, never demanding, always giving. Even better, unlike other foods that messed with my weight or hormones, bone broth seemed balanced. It didn't spike my hunger at midnight. It didn't throw off my energy. It gave me what I needed. Nothing more, nothing less. My wife noticed the change before I did. One evening, she said, "You look more alive. Your skin doesn't look so dull anymore. Even your eyes seem brighter." I laughed. All that from just drinking bone broth? Come on, it's not a magic potion. But truth be told, I felt it too. My body felt lubricated again. My knees creaked less in the morning. I could walk farther without that dragging fatigue. And maybe most important of all, my liver, that exhausted factory, finally caught a break. No more waking up in the middle of the night with that burning heaviness. Instead, I could sip a cup of bone broth before bed and feel like my body was being cleansed from the inside out. Day by day, bone broth became my ritual. Morning, a cup to start the day. Afternoon, another instead of coffee. Evening, it was the drink that carried me into restful sleep. It stopped being food and became my ally. And here's the strange part. When you're past middle age, allies don't look like fancy supplements or miracle pills. Sometimes they're the simple ancient things. Things that sat quietly in your grandmother's kitchen, waiting to be rediscovered. I realized I had gone full circle, only to return to the truth. The human body thrives on what is simple, natural, and easy to absorb. Bone broth is exactly that. And you know the most surprising part? My wife was right from the very beginning. She didn't need a scientific journal to tell her what was good for me. She relied on intuition, the kind you build from years of caring for a family. Sometimes, love is the most reliable science there is. But this was only the beginning of the story about my secret weapon. Bone broth had helped me regain strength from within. But the bigger question remained. Could it actually reverse the spiral of aging that eats away at us day by day? And that very question led me to my next discovery. One far more surprising. I have to confess, one morning I sat at the table staring at a boiled egg. The same food my doctor once told me to eat every day for protein. I held it in my hand, turned it over, and suddenly thought, this thing was made to feed a baby chick, not rebuild the body of an old man like me. Sounds odd, I know. But it was true. A single egg, no matter how nutritious, only gives about 6 grams of protein. For a body past middle age, That's like carrying a small bucket of water to put out a forest fire. Helpful, sure, but nowhere near enough. That day, my wife walked by and noticed me lost in thought. She asked, "What are you thinking about?" I said, "I'm thinking I'd probably need to eat a dozen eggs just to make up for what I've lost." She laughed, shook her head. "Eat like that, and your cholesterol will send you packing early." We both laughed. But inside, I felt the weight of truth. I couldn't afford to eat carelessly anymore. My body wasn't as forgiving as it once was. Every choice mattered now. So I set the egg down, grabbed the jar of bone broth powder my wife had bought. I scooped a spoonful, mixed it with hot water. As I stared into that cup, I thought, 15 to 20 grams of protein, plus the specific amino acids that rebuild muscle, all in this tiny spoonful. Honestly, it felt like finding a shortcut in a maze. No more forcing myself to eat heavy red meat. No more plates of food that left me sluggish. Just one scoop of bone broth gave me more than all those meals I struggled through before. I'll never forget the first morning I swapped breakfast for a cup of bone broth. My wife sat across from me sipping coffee, watching with a teasing smile. "You look like you've signed up for some clinical trial," she joked. I smiled, but inside I felt a strange new hope. The surprise? My body responded right away. No post-meal sluggishness. No mid-morning crash like when I ate bread or cereal. Instead, I felt awake, light, like my body had finally gotten what it was waiting for. Later, I found the answer in research I'd never cared to read before. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition showed that older men who took collagen peptides alongside light exercise gained noticeable lean muscle and strength compared to those who didn't. Reading that felt like they were talking directly about me. I thought I was past the age for building muscle. Turns out the opportunity was still there. All I needed were the right materials. I told my wife about it. She smiled softly and said, "See? I told you. You think I just believe random things I read online. But we women, we've got better instincts than men." And she was right. I couldn't deny it. Within weeks, I looked in the mirror and noticed my shoulders weren't slumping as much. My grip felt stronger. The most shocking part? My posture. I no longer carried myself like a tired old man. But it wasn't just about muscles. Bone broth gave me another gift I didn't expect: sleep. For years, I tossed and turned, waking in the middle of the night with a restless, buzzing mind. Yet after adding bone broth to my routine, my sleep became smoother, deeper. I later read that glycine, an amino acid in bone broth, can calm the body, reduce inflammation, and support liver detox. Sounds technical, sure. But to me, it meant one simple thing. I finally slept well. One night, lying beside my wife, she whispered, "You know, it's been a long time since I've seen you sleep so peacefully. No tossing, no sighing. I slept better too because of it." I stayed quiet, but my heart felt warm. Health wasn't just about me. It touched her too, the woman who had stood by me for decades. And I silently thanked that little cup of bone broth for giving us both peaceful nights. Sometimes I wonder, why do we forget simple things that have been around forever? Maybe it's because we get distracted chasing the trendy foods, those shiny tubs of whey powder, those protein bars loaded with chemicals, forgetting the roots, the natural and most compatible things for the human body. Every time I think about that, I feel lucky. Because I didn't just find a solution, I found my way back to something ancient and essential. And the best part? My wife is walking this journey with me. We made bone broth part of our shared routine. I pour myself a cup, she stirs it into her soup or stew. Over time, bone broth stopped being a temporary fix and became a symbol of care, of love, a simple kind of love. No grand gestures, just enough to let two people grow old together and still feel strong. And then one day, standing in my little home gym, gripping a dumbbell, back straight, I realized I was back. Not back to my 20s, but back to myself. A version of me who could stand tall, confident, and free. But here's the thing. This is just the beginning. Because soon, I discovered that bone broth isn't only about protein or collagen. It opens a new door into the way my body heals, fights inflammation, and rejuvenates from within. And that is the part I'll share with you next. One afternoon, I was sitting in the backyard, holding a warm cup of bone broth, staring at the half-finished row of red bricks I'd been laying around the garden. My wife walked out from the kitchen, wiped her hands on her apron, and followed my gaze. She asked, "What are you thinking about this time? Another construction project in your head?" I smiled and said, "I was just thinking, my body is like a brick wall." She raised her eyebrows. "A wall?" I nodded. "Yes. Eggs, meat, fish, all that protein, they're like bricks. Strong, solid. But if there's nothing to hold them together, a single push can make the whole thing collapse." My wife paused for a moment, then smiled. "You mean bone broth is the mortar that keeps the wall standing?" I looked at her and saw her eyes light up, like she instantly understood what I meant. And yes, that was it. Bone broth isn't just another source of nutrition. It's the mortar, the glue, the thing that binds those bricks together and keeps the wall, our body, not only standing, but lasting through the years. I realized that when we're young, we only care about stacking more bricks. We hit the gym, eat tons of meat, chug down protein shakes. But once you pass 50, the wall doesn't fall because it's short on bricks. It falls because the bricks no longer stick, because the mortar has dried up, cracked, and crumbled. I remember one time at the park, I saw an old man, maybe 75, struggling to get up from a bench. He had to press down with both hands, trembling, trying several times before he managed to stand. And in that moment, I caught a glimpse of my own future, if I didn't do something. I told myself, no, I don't want to end up like that. I want to keep my independence. Independence. That's the deeper meaning of it all. Not big muscles to look good in a shirt. Not a chiseled body to impress anyone. It's about being able to get up from a chair on your own, carry your groceries upstairs, or walk to the store with your wife without needing a cane or someone to lean on. I told this to my wife, and she held my hand. "Do you know what scares me the most?" she asked. "Not you getting older. We all get older. What I fear most is the day you can't control your own body anymore, and I'll have to stand by helplessly, watching you depend on others." Her words pierced right through me. I understood then that bone broth wasn't just nutrition for me. It was a promise, for both of us, that I'd do everything I could not to become a burden, that I'd fight to hold on to my independence. Every time I sip a cup of bone broth, I picture that mortar seeping into the cracks, binding muscle to tendon, tendon to bone, patching up the damage that time has carved out. I feel a kind of strength spreading through me, as if the old wall inside me is being replastered, reinforced, made solid again, and I find myself stronger not just in body, but in faith. Faith that at this age, I still have a choice. Faith that each passing day, I'm building a future where my wife and I can enjoy life together without being shackled by frailty. There was even a time, walking around the neighborhood with her, when she looked over at me, half teasing. "You're walking faster than me now. Remember when you used to complain about your knees? Now I'm the one chasing you." I laughed, but inside I was proud. Not proud of outpacing her, but of reclaiming something priceless. Independence. I'm sharing this with you not to boast, but to say this: change is possible. Whether you're 50, 60, or beyond, there is still a path toward resilience. There's still a way not to be defeated by time. Bone broth, the mortar of life, is the key. It won't work miracles. It won't turn you into an Olympic athlete. But it gives you what matters most: the ability to stand strong, free, and unbound. I know there are men out there silently enduring the fear of weakness, dreading the day they'll depend on others. I want to tell them, there is another way. And I'm living proof. So if you've made it this far, take a moment and ask yourself, am I just stacking more bricks while forgetting about the mortar? If the answer is yes, maybe it's time to give your body that chance. And if this story today resonated with you, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part. Most importantly, leave a comment and share your own story. I'd love to hear it.